All right. So, as Phil mentioned, I'm going to walk you through an overview of our visibility portfolio. Again, staying high level because I'm going to let John and Vince get into the weeds. But you saw this 2x2 with Phil, and he went into the WAN optimization and the app acceleration. And so I'm going to kind of turn the hands on the clock until we get down there to network performance management. And, we talk about how we deliver network performance and visibility for your applications, for your networks, and because we think that visibility is a key piece of what a network administrator, what a network architect, what an operator needs, because there's a lot of visibility gaps that create problems for us. And so, with what Phil talked about in our acceleration solutions, that's great, right? We can overcome some of the challenges that we face with latency, but that's not the only thing that impacts performance in a network. So we need visibility. So I just share a little bit about some of the visibility gaps. These are just some of the things, like if I walk through, they're kind of things that I would see, right? So, we've got blind spots because of inconsistent data, or we don't have visibility into certain portions of our infrastructure, or even we don't have the right tools for it, maybe in some cases. And so that causes blind spots. Maybe organizations are reactive, and instead of being ahead of the curve, they just react to problems and they get in that mode. And then, they're, like I said, they're behind the curve rather than being proactive and having that visibility and being able to spot things that maybe haven't really impacted a user yet and make some adjustments there. And the list goes on, right? Too much time validating complaints. Is it a real problem? Maybe some things are complex, so we have challenges in solving the problem because our networks today, they're not simple. It's not an easy button to networking. They're still complex. We still see finger pointing between groups. We still see poor perception of service, and maybe you can't even have the ability to have SLAs. Maybe you just can't in some cases. And maybe a lot of the stuff that you need to collect to be able to make changes for the good in your organization, there's just a lot of guesswork there because of poor visibility, right? These are just the blind spots. These are the gaps where these problems exist or that cause these problems. And so that's where our unified NPM platform fills in those gaps, right? That's effectively what we're talking about. And so we do that in a number of ways, right? Because we said that the network is complex. So we have to attack those gaps in different places. And so what we end up doing is providing things like hybrid cloud visibility and information about your infrastructure, the ability to look into packets, and also to see maybe on a client side what's going on with a host and the packets there. So we bring all that together and we provide that into something that's a scalable solution that's going to give you a portal to go to see what's important for you. And so, like I said, the new normal today, our new networks they're just complex. Users are all over the place. We've seen these shifts, like Phil was talking about, working from anywhere, coffee shops, campers, whatever the case may be. We have that ability for people to work from anywhere, but then we run into situations where we can't really choose. We are forced to work in certain situations now. It's just the reality of our world. So you have that complexity, but then you still have you still have multiple types of connectivity, MPLS, internet, LTE. You have multiple clouds that you can be deploying applications into and interacting with between all of these locations, SaaS applications. Again, it's just there's a huge strain on enterprise networks and the guys that operate them, the folks that operate them, because there's just a lot to keep track of. And oftentimes, like I said, a lack of visibility. So I want to just take a minute and just address how I think we deliver value across the enterprise. Because I said we had to attack things at different places, right? So, for example, network traffic analysis, right? So many of you, I know, you know what I'm talking about here. You know, recording your traffic, capturing your traffic, being able to see things like bandwidth consumption and top talkers, and you know what kind of utilizations on your WAN interfaces, right? So you know, do I need to scale that up and whatnot? I mean, there's a lot of areas under network traffic analysis that need to be addressed, and we address those. And the same is true with the other buckets, if you will, right? So application troubleshooting, infrastructure management, being able to see your topology and monitor your topology, do path analysis, and be able to see the network path of your application traffic. That's valuable information. And then you get into that bucket of network detection and response. We know security is huge. We need visibility into what's happening. So we need some threat intelligence. We address that, DDoS detection and mitigation, incident forensics, threat hunting. I mean, these are all things I'm sure you know are there, but these are the gaps that we can fill. And then, of course, the migration to the cloud. Everybody's in the cloud. So we need to be able to analyze what we have in the cloud. And we need to do that. We actually need to have visibility before, during, and after a migration, right? So all those are key areas that we'd like to talk about and show how we can fill those gaps. Now, this is the first slide that I've shown that actually shows a product name, because I've been talking about our unified NPM solution, right? And that's all encompassing. It's the solution that gives you the visibility you need and plugs all those gaps. And so the way that we do that is through a couple of products. These are key products. We have AppResponse, NetProfiler, and NetIM. And you can see those in the blue section there in the middle. And you can sort of look at these as the sensors, the things that capture the packets, and then they can do stuff with them. AppResponse is for on-demand and automated packet analysis. So you want to remember that packet analysis for AppResponse. And then NetProfiler, this is going to give you a flow data, flow information. And then NetIM, that would be network infrastructure monitoring and then synthetic testing. And I'll show you another visual of that. But when you take these key elements of the unified NPM solution, you feed it all up into what we call Portal. And you can see Portal sitting up there, actually right underneath that little graphic of the CIO. Now, what Portal is a place that you can log into, and it is just that. It is a portal that gives you a window into the world that's important to you. Now, we take all that data in through AppResponse, NetProfiler, NetIM, and we can present that into customizable dashboards. So whether you're the cloud architect or if you're the CEO, you can customize that dashboard to show you the KPI information that's important to you, right? So it gives you a place to get at that data and present it in a way that's meaningful. And I think you'll actually get to see a look at Portal briefly in one of Gwen's demos in a little bit. Now, if you've known Riverbed for a while, you know that we talk a lot about our visibility solutions, and sometimes people will say, okay, yeah, that's on premises, right? So we put these in our locations, and it could be hardware or it could be a virtual machine, that kind of thing. But what about cloud? Because everybody's moving to cloud. Well, see, we understand that networks being complex like they are, you have a lot of hybrid networks, right? So there's still physical data centers, but there's still, and then you've got You've got public-private cloud stuff going on. And so we are able to provide that visibility in the cloud as well, right? So we can, these same elements of the unified NPM can operate. You run them in the cloud. AppResponse Cloud is there. NetProfiler and Flow Gateway is there. NetIM is there. And again, they do the same thing, right? They're getting at the same information that you need. They're getting you the packet data, the flow data, and then the infrastructure monitoring and synthetic testing capability. Now, I had another slide here I wanted to go into. I won't dig into each one of those in the cloud, but I like this one with AppResponse Cloud, because one thing it highlights is that we can run AppResponse Cloud in AWS or in Azure, and then there's these different ways we get packets into AppResponse so that you can do something with them. But there's this little icon up at the top of that lightning bolt. This is Packet Analyzer Plus. And what I think is really cool about that is a lot of times this is just packaged along with, it ties in with AppResponse, and it's almost like, you might say like a Wireshark on steroids, right? So it's what you can use to slice and dice your packets and do that investigation on the packets themselves. But what's cool about it is, rather than having to export some PCAP and then import it and then start going through that, this can actually be connected to all of your app responses that might be located in your data centers or in the cloud, and then be able to filter on the specific packets you want to pull from that. You can even go historical and say, give me these packets and pull them out for me. So again, it's all about providing the best visibility and getting into the data sets that you need. Now, really, this is my second to last slide here, but I wanted to just lay out, before we close this section off, the sort of overview. So AppResponse, NetProfiler, NetIM, running on-premises or in the cloud, in cloud servers, wherever they're running, right? They're receiving traffic. And I tried to visualize here for you. So AppResponse, you can see in the blue, AppResponse is packets, NetProfiler is flows, NetIM, there you can see some polling and also synthetic testing. And then taking all that, roll it up into Portal, and now you've got that integrated dashboard. It gives you correlation. And I know John and Vince are really going to get into this, and you'll really see the power of it to be able to just drill down and get at what you need. And it's great for troubleshooting, of course, right? Because that's the time when you really need to see what's going on. But also there's times where, like I said before, maybe we need to make changes to the network to get better performance, and we don't want to do guesswork. We need to see that stuff so we can plan ahead of time. So we get all of that as you put this whole solution together. So I guess my takeaways would be that we really do feel that at Riverbed, with our unified NPM solution, that you do get the best data, because we collect everything. I mean, all the way down to the packet, and we keep them. And packets don't lie, so it gets you to that truth. Another thing that's great about this is it's the best data and then the best analysis. And because it's spread over your whole architecture, it's a common language. So you're not jumping from one language to another and trying to read this information that's coming to you. So you're speaking one language over the entire scope of your network, and that's going to give you the best results in the end. That's really the idea, is to equip IT organizations to be able to achieve what they need to achieve. And so that's really the end of my overview. And like I said, you're really going to enjoy the deep dives that you'll get into. But at least now, I hope you can see that these are complementary, right? Phil talked about application acceleration. Of course, it's going to sit on top of your network, covers certain aspects of latency and problems, solves those problems. But still, you're always going to need deeper visibility, and that's where our unified NPM comes in.
Hey, Brandon, I have a quick question. What are the expectations for storage space for all this data, the packet captures? Is it local? Is it, everything transmitted back to the data center?
Yeah. So I think that there's probably a lot of factors that go into that. To be honest, John is probably a better person to answer that question than I am. But I know that you've got to take into consideration things like, how far back do you want to store, right? Is there some kind of requirement for you to store a certain amount, right? And then you'd have to calculate that along with, if you're implementing appliances or if it's in the cloud. I think with AppResponse Cloud, it's something like 8 terabytes of storage capability, something along those lines. But yeah, if John wants to chime in, I'll let him. But that's probably the best I could offer. It sort of depends.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in a quick nutshell, there's a hardware platform and a virtual platform. So the storage is on board on the hardware platform and expandable with disk array chassis. So huge numbers of terabytes in a single chassis as you daisy chain disk arrays. And then the virtual versions would depend on how they're deployed. There's an ESX deployment, and then there's Azure and cloud deployment. So where you allocate that storage kind of depends on those different platforms.
Roger that.
Yeah.
I have another quick question. So in a couple slides ago, you showed kind of some more of the sources of all the data. Is it primarily network data collection? So you're collecting from the network layer, from taps, from NetFlow data. Is that the primary source of data, or is there agent-based collection also?
Yeah, so there is, you can tie into agent-based collection. And I think even Gwen's going to show you where we pull off of our client accelerator, and we're going to pull packets in. He's going to actually look at some of those. I won't steal his thunder, but yeah, and then we talked about synthetic testing, and of course there'd be some agent stuff going on there as well. And I know as networking evolves and as cloud continues to change, that there's more types of data that we could be bringing in, and that's always something to look at. There's a lot of points of data, but yeah, we have packets, we have flows, we have SNMP information, we have synthetic testing information that could be agent based. Yeah, all coming in.
Yeah, and one thing I would just add to that real quick, because it's really interesting, is the NetIM solution that Brandon was talking about. Primarily SNMP polling, but it also does have synthetic testing using test engines that you can freely deploy any number of test engines out to any location. And those test engines could be doing lightweight latency tests, availability tests for an application, path testing, things like that, and even external scripts. But one of the really interesting things is a new capability to ingest any business-related metrics that you extract from, let's say, an sales order management system, a ticketing system, a manufacturing system, literally any time-stamped measurements, and ingesting those into NetIM and making those measurements, those really business velocity measurements, available together with the instrumentation that we pull off of the network. So now you can blend and integrate business performance with IT performance, whether it's the network, the applications, the servers, et cetera. It's a really interesting capability when you bring all of that together into one screen, especially for stakeholders in different BUs whose world is not, a network metric. It's really a business metric. So bringing those together is pretty huge.
Okay, so I'm curious about the dashboard views. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to see how those packets visualize for a NOC staff or something along those lines. And which brings to my next question: is it viable to export to a Splunk dashboard as well that might give valuable information at a glance to a NOC?
Sure. Yeah. So in the case of the packet level monitoring, the metrics are created real time. You're going to see some examples of that coming up when we get into a little more detail. But the metadata metrics for both network health and application health metrics are recorded on board on the AppResponse appliance, as well as the packet. So you have this forensic data store, huge size, so you can get at the packets if you need them. But generally, you're going to do most of your work using the metadata, and that metadata around network health and application health and end user experience measurements. That metadata can also be extracted via REST API and put into other tools. Some of our customers are, big Splunk users, and they'll pull out that metadata and integrate it with other systems that are happening in Splunk as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, so REST API is a big part of the capability of the platform.
It sounds like you have all the components to have like a security module. Do you have a security module as well that goes on top of this you'd be showing?
Yep, absolutely. And Gwen's going to be doing a demo of that coming up here shortly.